go. Note, we are recording today. Today's deep dive webinar is called Make Better Decisions with Google Analytics. And if you don't know what Google Analytics is, Bryan promises you will know, and you will have at least an idea of how to use it afterwards. As I said, I'm Deborah Gallant from E4All in Berkshire County. And before I do anything else, I always thank our sponsors. E4All offers all of our programs free of charge because of these very generous sponsors. If they didn't do that, we wouldn't be here. What is E4All? Some of you might be new and not know. E4All helps under-resourced individuals start their own businesses. As of last year, 700 businesses were started by E4All alumni across our 15 sites. I think we're over 1,000 now. And 70% of those businesses are still active after 3 years, which is 8 percentage points above the US average for startup businesses. If this sounds interesting to you, the timing is good. If you're in and around Berkshire County, Massachusetts, our deadline is January 27th for our next accelerator. But I know that this program is going to all of our sites across the country. And hopefully some of you aren't in an E4All community. Maybe you'll bring E4All. So let me tell you what we have coming up before we launch into today. February 28th, next month, Lee Rafkin, one of our mentors here in Berkshire County, Why Your Business Needs a Brand. March 21st, email marketing for small business. I know that's one of Bryan's other subjects. We have a different expert coming in then. And April 18th, the challenges of starting a food business. So one of the great things about our deep dives is they are all recorded and available to you as a resource library. There are two that are of particular interest that get a lot of traffic. One is getting certified as a minority woman-owned business. And the other one is hiring your first employee. And if you want to know more about those or about 15 other topics, they are all on our website. Today's deep dive format is with a presenter, a professional Grow with Google presenter who's going to introduce himself in a moment, Bryan Caplan. He's going to talk for about an hour on the topic that we've talked about, using Google Analytics to make better business decisions. We're going to only record the first hour of Bryan's presentation, and then we're going to stop recording and open it up to Q&A and discussion. So yes, you can ask him your specific question yourself. You can enter it in the chat. I will be here the whole time. If something needs clarification as Bryan goes along, he talks loud and fast, but I think I can stop him and slow him down if we need clarification. But if it's a specific question that you want him to explore, we have a whole half hour at the end set aside, and we won't be taping that. So you don't have to worry that your specific question about your specific website is going to be recorded for posterity on the E4All website. You can ask that in a more private way. So that's all you're going to hear from my screen. You'll hear from me some more, and I'm going to certainly be screening the questions. And I am going to introduce our outside presenter, Bryan Caplan from Grow with Google, to talk to us about our subject today. Welcome, Bryan.
Thank you so much, Deborah. It's nice to be here, and I'm happy to work with you. I've worked with some other E4All chapters, so it's really nice to be working with you too. For everyone that's watching today, the first thing I want to do is, if you've used Zoom before, if you've come to one of my events, I know I actually recognized a couple names. The one thing that we can do is offer closed captioning. So if any of you require closed captioning, if you can let me know, I'll turn that on for you right now. If not, I know that some people do find it could be distracting to them. So if no one needs it, I can move forward, but I'll give you a second to type into the chat and let me know if you need closed captioning.
If you'd like Bryan to put closed captioning on his presentation, because it'll help your access, please just type that in the chat and it will be on. Otherwise, he's going to go without it. He's a very clear speaker, and I think most folks here do speak English, so I think we'll be okay. Not seeing any requests, so I think you're good to go.
Okay. Then let's move forward. So again, thanks, Deborah, for the intro. My name is Bryan Caplan. I'm your dedicated trainer for the Grow with Google program. I'm actually born and raised in Sharon, Massachusetts, moved around the country quite a bit, found myself living back in Sharon after I promised myself I would never go back there, and met my wife. And then we moved up to New Hampshire, where it's even colder. And that's why we escaped down here to Florida, where it's still cold. So go figure. For me, you know, it's funny. I was just writing something because I'm writing an article, and I'm thinking back to my parents. I was kind of, you know, having a little bit of I don't know, kind of some thoughts of where I started, kind of thinking where you were, where you are, where you're going. My parents both worked full-time jobs. My dad actually lived in China 6 months out of the year because he's in the shoe business. My mom was a teacher at a local school, and both of them had to start side hustles, had to start, small businesses to make ends meet. And I think back to how my mom would craft these beautiful custom gift baskets in the basement, and they were absolutely gorgeous, but the profit margin, she was lucky if she squeaked out 1%, 2%, because she didn't know how to manage her cost of goods sold. And then my dad would be in the garage, he'd be fixing bikes, and he'd be there for hours after 10 hours working at his full-time job. And for him, he'd fix bikes. People would come in, they'd call him, "Hey, Elliot, I need a bike fixed." And then he'd be sitting there for weeks at a time, waiting for someone to come in or waiting for a word of mouth referral. And I was thinking back to how I wish there were organizations like E4All or events like this where small business owners or even side hustlers who want to turn it into a small business can really grow. So I'm glad that you're here with us today. For you, if you'd like to connect and keep learning with me past this event, you can go to bryancaplan.com/go. So here's the thing. Getting data isn't the problem anymore. We have access to big data. And as you can see here, I love this quote. I've been saying this quote since I started with Grow with Google in 2017. Data makes your briefcase heavy. Insights make you rich. How many of you have opened up a spreadsheet? Let's say you downloaded some metrics or a report. You opened up the spreadsheet and then you just stared at it like a deer in the headlights, right? All of us. Even me. I mean, it's ones and zeros, right? You're just staring at you like, I'm not a bean counter. I'm not, maybe some of you are, but most of us aren't. So seeing these numbers is totally foreign and doesn't make sense. Well, that's the data. That's where it can feel like a giant albatross around your neck. It can make your briefcase heavy. Whereas insights, which is what we're going to talk about today, actually finding the patterns and themes inside of the data, using tools like Google Analytics to find those. Once we have those insights, then we're able to make better business decisions. We're able to see where the business is coming from. We're able to see what people are interested in. We're able to see what they're doing, in this case, on our website. So stick with me. We're actually going to learn quite a bit about how to turn that overwhelming data into insightful insights. Now, the thing that you need to understand, and really with insights, it's very hard to define. If you went to a room of 5 people, they'd give you 5 different definitions of an insight. Here's what's clear. An insight is something that we glean from the information we have, right? So in this case, we're using data and we're using tools that are collecting that data. Now, for us to know that people are visiting our website, that's not an insight. We probably know that we have website visitors, but for us to look through and actually find information that's novel, right? It's brand new to us. That's credible. It's based on customer truths. It's based on someone's action on our website, and that's actionable. That's like a prescription at the pharmacy. We know what to do in order to make our website better or to grow our business. Well, those 3 things married together are what create insights. And an insight is something that it's right in front of you, but it's not obvious. Great example. Last night, I made Impossible burgers for the family. And so my daughter's like, "I want mustard." My son goes, "I want ketchup." Okay, the mustard, great, found it. Ketchup, have you ever opened the fridge? You open it up and you're looking, you're like, where is the ketchup? Or where's that condiment? Or where's that thing? And it's right in front of you. You just didn't see it yet. That's like a really good insight. So we're going to figure out how to find those today. So I'm going to define a few different terms that we'll use today. First off, data. So data, facts, or statistics that we reference. In this case, it might be the number of visitors that come to our website. Could be the number of clicks that we get on a certain link, the number of views on a certain page. And again, as we established, data can be very overwhelming. Analytics are like finding the patterns and trends in the data. So it's like one of those optical illusion books where you start at right there close by, and then you start pulling it out and you start seeing the patterns and the trends. Well, once we have those analytics and we can start figuring out what are the analytics telling us, we can start asking some questions, then we find the insights, that actionable value. All that overwhelming data gets funneled into analytics. Finally, it gives us that prescriptive path to grow our business. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have your website, right? And let's say that you do have Google Analytics installed, or if you built it on a web builder like Squarespace or Wix or Weebly, they have built-in analytics. But let's just say that you're doing good marketing, you're measuring your marketing, you know what's going on with your website. So in, let's say, December, you had 1,000 visitors. Okay. So that's data. Data tells us we had 1,000 website visits. Well, analytics tells us that 30% of those visitors were on mobile phones. Okay, so 30% times 1,000, 300 visitors came on mobile phones. Great. What do we do with that? It's not actionable yet, so just kind of sits there. It's like, okay, good to know. Well, to make it into an insight, we actually dive a little bit further and see that of those 1,000 visitors, of which 30% or 300 were on mobile phones, 60% of mobile visitors were more likely to buy or actually made a purchase on our site. Aha. So the insight here is that 300 mobile visitors come to our site and they're 60% more likely to buy. What do? What's the action? We start playing more towards that mobile crowd. We try to attract more mobile visitors so that we can get our sales up. So that's how you would go through the process of going from data to analytics to insights. So today we're going to start with an intro to Google Analytics. And before we hit record and even let you all into the room, Deborah and I were talking about, we're going to establish just some kind of a baseline. Some of you may be already using Google Analytics. Some of you, this might be the first time you've ever heard of it. So I want to make sure that we're all on an even level. We'll understand how Google Analytics, how we can use it on the website to make better decisions, which is the premise of today's class. Then we're going to talk about finding answers with reports. So once we understand what Google Analytics is, we'll dive into the reports. We'll figure out kind of this process that we've created at Google for asking questions to get to the meat and potatoes, to get to those insights and know what we have to do to make better business decisions. And then I'll tell you a little bit about how you could use Google Analytics with Google Ads. We'll do a recap and resources. And then, as Deborah had said, at the end of the hour, we'll open it up to questions and answers. So we'll start with the basics. What is Google Analytics? Google Analytics is a free web-based tool. And basically, it's free software that you would install on your website. It helps you better understand customer or website visitors' behavior on your website. And now let me tell you too, we're talking about website, and I'll just use the word website for time's sake so I don't have to keep adding extra syllables. But Google Analytics can also help you track user behavior on your app. So if you have a mobile app for your business, you can use Google Analytics as well.
Brian,
for today,
folks are asking if you're going to start a slideshow or you're just going to keep talking.
Oh, it didn't share.
You haven't been sharing. I mean, we've loved listening to you.
I'm glad. Well, you missed the party, guys.
No, we didn't miss anything.
Okay. Well, then here you go. Sorry about that. And I'm not seeing the chat, so I can't see anything.
It's all good.
Okay. So now you're seeing my screen. That's a screen. That's a snapshot of Google Analytics. So well, I'll show you how to install it on your site, but basically it's a standalone tool. It's free. It's web-based. You can access it from anywhere, whether you're on the road with your family and Disney, whether you're in the car and you pull over on the side of the road. I've even accessed Google Analytics from the Cape Verde Islands off the west coast of Africa with 1 bar of 3G internet. So anywhere you have an internet connection, you can start understanding better user behavior and the experience on your site and what's ultimately driving more business for you. So with Google Analytics, a few things that you can do. And I'm going to kind of look over at the screen so I can get some prompts. So pardon me if I'm not making full eye contact. First thing is we learn which search terms. So when we're talking about search terms, you've probably heard it as keywords. It's when you go to Google and you go to Google search, you go to google.com, type in a search query. You might use 1 keyword, such as haircut. You might use 2, best haircut, 3, best haircut nearby. So everybody searches differently. Google Analytics helps us understand what search terms people are using in order to find our site and ultimately visit the site. We can see demographic information. We can see a general age range. We could see a gender. We could see basically where they're physically located. So we have an idea based off of, the IP address of a computer. And from that, we get a better idea. If we built a website and we're located in Western Mass, well, maybe we're getting folks from Western Mass, or maybe we have folks from New York or Connecticut, Rhode Island, anywhere in New England, or the country or the world. We can see all of that through Google Analytics. We can understand what content really matters to the audience. So not only, if you think back, how many of you remember back in the 90s, if you had been born yet, some of you may not, or even the early 2000s, when you go to a website and you'd see that website counter, raise your hand. Do you remember the website counter where it would say, hey, this website has 100 views or 100 visits, and you'd celebrate when you'd see that little counter go and go and go. And you probably went to your own website 10 or 20 times to boost the rate, right? Well, now it's a little bit different. It's not just about people visiting your site. That's nice, but again, that's just data. Doesn't really help us. So now we want to see, what are people doing on the site? What content really matters to them? Are they going to our About Us page? And on the About Us page, are they learning? Are they clicking over to our services or to view our testimonials? Are they reading our blog posts? Which blog posts are getting the most read time? Meaning people are actually staying on the page. Is that something that maybe we want to create a video on, or start posting on social, or send out an email about? So it helps us understand the content. And then when we talk about channels, so evaluating which channels drive the most conversions. I'm not talking about TV channels. These are channels such as Google search, Google ads, might be YouTube or video. It might be other blogs. It could be social media. It could be email marketing. So by having Google Analytics installed on our website, now we're seeing which marketing channels, or really which marketing campaigns, are working for us to drive more people to our site. And that's just the beginning. In order to set up Google Analytics, if you don't have it already, you would go to g.co/analytics. And what you need to do is be signed into your Google account. Now, if any of you don't have a Google account, it's completely free, and you'll be able to create one right there. It will prompt you to sign in. You can create a Google account. By creating a Google account, it gives you keys to the kingdom. It allows you to use this tool. It also allows you to use a lot of the other tools that I cover in my other classes. But in this case, just analytics. So let's assume that you're signed in. You would click on Start for Free, and then Google Analytics will walk you through a process or a multi-step wizard on how to set up a property in your analytics account. So again, it's g.co/analytics.
Brian, can I just pause for one question and ask a clarifying question? You said that there are analytics built in if you use one of those website builders like Squarespace or Wix or Weebly. Mm-hmm. Can you have Google Analytics as well?
Yes. As someone that's been building websites for 12 years, I'll tell you, no matter what web builder you use or platform, as a best practice, you should have Google Analytics installed as well. So it wouldn't be a problem.
And web builder Amy's asking, what does it mean to add a property? What's a property?
A property would be something like your website. So in this case, you may have one website, you might have two websites. I know realtors that have 5 different websites. Each website would be a different property, or an app might be a property. So in this case, we're going to assume that your main website is your property.
And there, we're also getting a clarifying question. Is WordPress, do you need a plugin to install Google Analytics?
Not necessarily, no. Nope.
Mike, you can ask more questions about that at the end.
Yeah. So just a note, if you are basically, there's multiple versions of Google Analytics right now. So if you had set up Google Analytics before October 14th, 2020, your reports most likely reflect the older version, and that's called Universal Analytics. There's nothing wrong with it. It's still collecting data and all that. If you set up Google Analytics after that date, then you would see what we call GA4, or Google Analytics 4. It was launched October 14th, 2020. And anybody that set up Google Analytics since then, that's what they're going to see. So what we recommend, and I'll walk through this, if you're setting up, GA4 would be the primary solution that you're going to use moving forward. If you already have Universal Analytics, which some of you are probably asking, here's actually a slide dedicated to that. So what you can do is, if you have Universal Analytics, meaning you set up your Google Analytics before October 14th, 2020, you can go down below, see the link support.google.com/analytics. it will actually walk you through a migration support tool, and it will help you migrate from the older version, Universal Analytics, to the newer version, GA4. And basically, you can also find it if you go into your settings right here. So anytime we're in Google Analytics, on the left-hand side, you'll always find your menu to find different reports. And down below, you'll see admin, where you can access your settings. And the question was asked about a property. Well, in this case, it's www.mywebpage.com. And right here, if you do not have GA4 set up, meaning you had installed it before 10/14/2020, you can click right here to GA4 Setup Assistant. It will walk you through. And again, if any of you are curious, if maybe you think you have Universal Analytics, I'm not going to take the time to walk through a support, but what I'm going to do is point you to the link at the bottom left, support.google.com/analytics, and you'll be able to find it there.
And does this new version, the GA4, offer so much more that I have to and I should migrate? Do I lose a lot by sticking with the Universal Analytics?
You don't. It's highly recommended that you move to GA4. Eventually, everything's going to be moved to GA4. So it's in your best interest, if you have Universal Analytics, to install GA4. Right now, you would have the two different setups going. So you would have Universal Analytics and GA4, and soon enough, it will all be merged. I just don't have a timeline on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So once you've created your Google Analytics account, you're going to see a dashboard that looks just like this. And here you're going to be able to see some different reports, metrics about your website. You can do a health check on your account, so you'll see if everything's going well. One thing that I wanted to actually back out of the slides and show you a demo is the analytics intelligence, which I'll show you in a second. One thing to note, you can create your own dashboards. So there are ways, again, I'm not going to show it today, but there's plenty of tutorials that you can use to create dashboards. Or you can go, what I always say is, when in doubt, Google it out. Go to google.com and you can search for custom Google Analytics dashboards. There are plenty of free dashboards that are totally available and free. All you have to do is click on a link and it creates a dashboard for you in your analytics account. Those are really cool if you're trying to find certain metrics or certain insights, like from your email campaigns or from search campaigns or from social. So you can go and, again, just look for free Google Analytics dashboard templates. You'll be able to find those. What I'm going to do, just to kind of give you an idea of how analytics intelligence works, I'm going to go here. And again, so this is a site that I manage, but I also have permission to show it on events like this. And in this case, what we're doing is we're looking at the main dashboard, right? So I can see the number of users. I can see the number of sessions. So a user could have come more than once. The bounce rate is when someone actually comes to the site, but they don't do anything. So that's if you've ever gone to a site, you were overwhelmed, it was too much, you pressed back or you closed the tab, didn't take action, that's a bounce. If you let the tab or the website sit there for 30 minutes, let's say something happened, like someone called you on the phone, you get up and you start talking, or kids are in the background, a baby's crying, forgot that you have to make lunch, which I just did earlier today. And so you get up and you leave a site open for 30 minutes. That 30-minute time window counts as a bounce because you didn't interact with the site. So we can see the bounce rate. We can even see the average session duration, how long someone spends on the entire site. And obviously, the lower the bounce rate, the better. If people aren't bouncing from our site, if they're sticking to our site and actually using the content that we create, interacting with the elements we've added to our site, that's good.
Mindy wants to know what's a bounce rate? I mean, what should we think is a good one and or a bad one? Are there standards around this?
Couldn't tell you. It's really case by case. You can go and you're going to find different research and different stats for different industries depending on the company that's doing the research. And Deborah, what I'll ask, let's save the questions till the end if we can, just because it's throwing me off. The session duration as well. We want a longer session duration. The longer someone spends on the site, the more intimate they're getting with our content, the better they get to know and the rapport they're building with our company. And as a result, then now we are very much closer to a sale. But the one thing that I really wanted to show you was analytics intelligence. You're going to see that on the right-hand side. So again, remember, data, great. We see all this stuff. This is data. Insights, we can start going into the reports and kind of funneling out insights. But right here, or I'm sorry, analytics, but insights is where we're taking all that. We're kind of finding the symphony of the data and the analytics to create insights. In that case, it's already suggesting some of them for us, where you get your users from. So top campaigns by sessions. How does goal one conversion rate? We don't talk about goals today. Show me a breakdown of my users by device type. Let's click on that. So it's showing me right here, just like that example I had given you at the beginning, it's showing me top device category, mobile, desktop, tablet. And this is for a specific period of time, January 17th through the 23rd. So I know that a lot of folks, and this is a real estate website, a lot of folks that are looking to either buy a home or sell a home, maybe they saw one of the signs of this realtor, and then they're picking up their phone, going to the site. So that tells me that I'm playing towards more of a mobile audience. Okay, so that only gives me a week, but then I could click on the trend for the last 28 days. Wow, okay, trend of users. So I can see right here, the users, and basically this, in this case, is showing me how many users I had on the site, how many individual visitors I had on the site. Okay, it goes up and down, and then I know that we had a big marketing campaign. So this is where you might buy an ad, you might put out a video on YouTube, you might start a social campaign, maybe you send out postcards or even take out a traditional marketing ad. Well, that's where you might see a giant spike in users. So it went from 21 to 58. Very cool. I could even go back and I can ask a question. So let's go right here to more insights. Let's go down and let's see if I go to where you get your users from. What are my top default channels? What campaigns have the most sessions? Let's click on that one. So I can see that, okay, in this case, we don't have any campaigns set. So a bunch of people, 190 people, they're coming just from www.realtorsite.com. Whereas others might be coming from a specific page, like a condos page that's referring them to our site. Okay, no, let's go back. Let's try to find one that all of you can relate to. Here's a good one, bounce rate. So we just covered bounce rate. So again, bounce rate is basically the percentage of people visiting the site and all of those that are leaving the site without interacting with the content. In this case, we've been kind of going from, just below 60, kind of oscillating just around 65, 70%. Well, now, because in this case, the website has been improved, if you will, we've been looking at how a user would experience the site. We're trying to reduce the bounce rate and we've fallen back under 60%. Now we want to keep that trend going. So as we test, this is going to be one of the metrics or the analytics that we look at to see, does the user experience really help people stay on the site? They don't feel overwhelmed. They feel like they're getting the information they need and they have the resources at hand that they need, which we'll talk about. And ultimately, it's a better user experience. They're one step closer to contacting us, setting up a pre-listing, or buying a home with us. So that's just what I want you to do from this. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. Instead, I want you, if you have Google Analytics installed, and specifically in this case, we're on Ga4, then I want you to be looking at analytics intelligence and basically just poking around. You can't break it. So you can ask different things. You can see all the different questions. And I just want you to kind of play around and see if there's anything that you learn, any insights that you learn on your own site. So let's go out of here. Let's jump back in here. Here we go. So we're going to assume that everybody set up their Google Analytics. And again, there's a recording, so you'll have the links on how to set up your analytics property, and then even that little kind of tour of analytics intelligence. But now what we're going to do is we're going to find answers with reports. And in order to do so, we're going to kind of go through a story. So I want you to meet Eva and Ricky. So many of you probably, if you had started your business before the pandemic, you may have seen that you had to innovate. You had to adapt, right? We had a lot of clients that were brick and mortar retail stores or restaurants, and they solely sold inside their four walls. And with the pandemic, they had to go virtual. Great story. We had one of the oldest hat shops in New Orleans. Well, New Orleans was shut down. So they had to really pivot and start being virtual and start selling online through e-commerce. Eva and Ricky, same kind of thing. They were selling t-shirts, they had a shop, or they were going to local markets. People were loving their designs. They realized they could start an online store. Not only did it help them to reach more customers, but it also helped them to test out new designs without having to print a batch of 50, 100, 500 t-shirts. So Eva and Ricky are going to come along with us. We're going to use them as an example as we look at asking questions and finding them through reports, finding the answers through reports. So the first thing is gut instinct. In running a business, and show of hands, how many of you have made a decision based on your gut alone? Right? So when you're running your business, whether it's, I know that there's going to be a class about hiring people. Maybe you just had a good feeling about someone. Maybe it was taking on a new client or customer, and so you went with your gut there. Maybe it was offering a new product line or expanding into a new category. Well, whether you're doing it for personal or professional, gut instinct plays in because it's a survival mechanism, right? It's a visceral instinct. In this case, gut instinct is great, but now we have data. So we want to look at data. Well, here's some ideas of gut instinct decisions that Eva and Ricky made. They created a new t-shirt design. They loved it. They showed it to a couple of friends who loved it because they want to support their friends, Eva and Ricky. So what did they do? They immediately added it to the site. Then they promoted the shirt based on assumptions about the customers. So they had some preconceived notions about who their customer was from some of their interactions at markets or in the store. And they said, okay, we're going to offer this shirt in these sizes and this in these colors, and our customers are going to love it because we know our customers. And a knee-jerk reaction, they cut prices when sales were down. It's much easier. I've seen a lot of people do this. Well, let's just cut prices because if we do, then we can increase the volume of sales. We'll have more people buying. As a result, we'll make up for that loss of profit. Well, without data, it's all guesswork. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of work through Google Analytics and this process that I'm going to show you, this framework, in order to see were Eva and Ricky right? Was their gut telling them what to do to grow their business? So first off, in the process, we're going to talk about outlining goals. And I'll show you a specific framework for goals. We want to keep in mind, what are we trying to achieve? In this class, in this case, we're setting goals for our website, but you can obviously set goals for your business, for marketing, for anything. Step two, we're going to ask questions. So in order for us to achieve the goals, what answers do we need? What information do we need to really consider and kind of sift through to achieve those goals? And then step three, in this case, we're looking through Google Analytics reports so that we can find those answers in order to achieve the goals. So it goes down, but then it relates back up at the same time. And we'll start with goals. So I've been doing marketing for 15 years. I've taught, coached, consulted, worked with thousands upon thousands of small businesses. I'll tell you, even the businesses, the ones that have goals, that have a goal for their campaign, for their site, for any type of marketing tactic or strategy, they're successful. Even if they failed, even if it totally blew up in their face, because they had a goal, they could measure against what they did. They could see where they went right or where they went wrong. They could fix, rinse, repeat, and then attack again. So in this case, we're talking about the SMART framework. So SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time sensitive. Specific, right? Are we actually talking about a specific aspect of our website or our marketing? Okay. Not just, I want to grow sales. All of us can say we have a goal. We want to grow sales. We all do, but how can we be more specific? I'll show you examples. Measurable. Are they adding a number or a percentage? How are we going to actually know if we achieve that goal? So for instance, for measurable, let's say that you want to, you have a bike. And so you want to soup up your bike. You want it to go even faster. You want to hit more miles in less time. Well, if you did all these repairs, just like my dad at his bike shop, you brought it to a bike shop, the person fixed it up for you. How would you know if your bike went faster if you didn't know the original speed? Same thing here. If we don't have a measurement, or we don't give ourselves a baseline and then say we want to increase or decrease by X% or this number, how do we know if we succeeded? So you need to have a number. Attainable. Basically, is it realistic? You know, if you start a jewelry business, let's say you're selling rings or bangles, and you say, hey, in a month, I'm going to sell 1 million rings. Unless you get it on the Kardashian sisters, you're not going to sell 1 million rings, most likely. So how can we be realistic? Relevant. It may not have to do specifically with your website. In this case, we're going to talk about website goals, but it might do with your holistic business, or it might do with time management or your productivity and focus. Well, as long as it's relevant to the business and it's relevant to the task at hand, which is growing your business, then it falls under relevant. And time sensitive. We're at the end of January. I don't know about you. I had set some New Year's resolutions. Some of them I've accomplished. Some of them I'm working towards. All of them I know where I'm at because I follow this framework, but I also put a timestamp on it. I said when I wanted to achieve those goals or within what time period. So we want to put some sort of date or duration so that we know we can measure, hey, if we said we want to do it in a month, after 1 month, we can see if we actually hit that goal. So Ricky and Eva's goal, they want to increase t-shirt sales through our website by 35% in the next quarter. Does it meet the SMART framework? And I'll ask you. So if you think it meets the SMART framework, give a thumbs up. Seeing some thumbs up. So is it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time sensitive? Okay, it is. For the sake of time, it is. Spoiler alert. So specific, increased t-shirt sales through their website. Is it measurable? 35%. They got a number. Attainable. People can argue 35% increase in sales may be out of reach, but if they just started their online store, then seeing that sort of increase would probably be good. They might even see a higher increase, like 50, 100%, or even more, depending on how many sales they had. Relevant, of course, increasing t-shirt sales. It adds to the top line, it adds to our revenue, which gives us more money for the business. And then time sensitive, next quarter, in the next quarter. So it fits those 5 criteria of SMART framework. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about your goals. Now, I don't need you to write down a SMART goal right away, but think about goals that you want for your website. Do you want new leads, appointments? Do you want sales through, do you have an e-commerce shopping cart? Do you want to get more email subscribers so that you can continue marketing to them? Do you want views of videos that you post up? Downloads of an ebook, a case study, a PDF, a success story, a checklist, a guide, etc. So all I want you to do is just, if one of these stands out to you, write it down. You can always create the SMART framework or the SMART goal later. And again, you're going to get a recording of this. So I'll go through this pretty quick and show you a formula that I came up with to help people that attend these events. So basically, here's the thing. Taking that SMART framework, we turned it into, remember Mad Libs, which I play with my kids all the time? We're basically creating a marketing Mad Lib. I want to increase or decrease my whatever marketing metric by whatever number through whatever marketing channel in the next length of time. So if we fill in these blanks, then we create a successful SMART goal. Here's an example. I want to increase my new customer leads by 10% through my website in the next 3 months. Or I want to decrease my number of missed appointments by 50% through my calendar scheduling app in the next 1 month. So SMART goals can relate to increases. They could relate to decreases. Like, remember, we talked about bounce rate. I want to decrease my bounce rate by showing a video on my website. So this is the formula. And again, you're going to get a recording of today's class. You can pause on this section and then try to write down your own SMART goals. Try to have at least one. If you can create more, all the better. So once you have your goals in place, then you're going to ask questions. And these questions follow the marketing cycle or the customer engagement cycle. Reach. How are we reaching them? Who's our audience and how are they actually coming to the site? Then engage. Once they're on the site, can they find the information they need to decide if we're the right business for them? Convert. How are we turning those leads into customers or email subscribers or form submissions? And then sustain, because it's a lot easier to get someone to come back and to drive that repeat business, a lot more affordable too, than to acquire new customers. So how do we get those people coming back again and again and again? And I'll give you examples. So reach questions help you understand brand recognition. It's your awareness, how people are finding you online. So examples of questions. What are people searching for? Remember, we talked about keywords or search terms. What are people searching for? Google Analytics helps us find that out. Who is our audience? Well, we can get a basic idea of where they're located, what type of device they're using, their age range, all through Google Analytics. So we have a better idea of building their buyer persona or their marketing avatar, really defining our customer. Then how are they finding us online? So are they finding us through Google search, through an ad that we purchased, Google ads? Is it on YouTube? Is it through an email that was forwarded to them, a social media post, a blog post? So we're able to ask those questions to figure out how are we reaching people and how are they ultimately arriving at our website? Engage questions. So once people hit the site, what are they doing? What different pages are they looking at? What content are they looking at? Where are they engaging with us? Are they commenting on a blog post? Are they filling out a form? Are they watching a video? And are they interacting? So again, it could be some of those same metrics, like someone's watching a video, or do they press the share button from one of our blog posts and share it via, message or via social media or forward it in an email? So now we're able to see through Google Analytics again, how they're engaging and interacting with our content in order to figure out what's working, what's helping us get to the next level, which is convert. So now they've hit the site, they've seen our information, they've started engaging, interacting with our content. Convert doesn't just mean that they have to buy. They don't have to be a customer. They could also, like I had mentioned, they could become an email subscriber. They could fill out a form for an audit, a consultation, a site visit. They could download something. So in this case, which channels drive conversions? Was it the email that we sent out last week? Is it the social campaign that we're doing? Is it the video we just posted on YouTube or that guest blog post that we wrote for XYZ site or company? What calls to action are driving conversions? Again, we've got to think back to our demographics. If we assume that, our audience are younger, let's say millennials, right? Then we're going to be talking to them differently than we would someone that's in a more esteemed or more mature stage of life, let's say 45, 55 plus. Different words are going to resonate with them. And we also want to think about their sensibilities. So what calls to action are going to drive them to do something on the site? And then which channels have a higher ROI? I tell you, again, I've been doing this 15 years. And when I see small business owners that are like, yeah, I post out here and I send an email once a quarter. It's like, that's great. What's driving business? Well, I don't know. Business is good. Well, what's driving business though? So it's kind of asking that hard question and doing the work to figure out which of these different campaigns or marketing tactics that we're using, which of them are driving in an actual return on investment, a return on the time that we spend or the money that we spend. And finally, sustain. We've won them as a customer or a conversion. How do we get them coming back again and again? They're already familiar with the brand. We need to drive them in more. So do people continue to engage with us? Where? Is it a certain page on the site? Is it outside of the site? If they're, let's say, leaving us reviews, let's say on the Google business profile, are we responding? How quickly? If they use a chat bot, how quickly are we responding to that? And do we give people a reason to return? Are we giving them that wow experience, a good customer experience? Is the site working? Do they feel good? Do they get through all the steps? They become a customer or a subscriber, and ultimately they feel good working with our business. Not only the wow experience, but we could also give them a rewards program. Are we giving them some incentive to come back and spend more with us down the road? So all of these different questions help us figure out how to sustain them. And there's different examples of reports that you could use. So real-time reports, I'll give you a really good story in a second. So what's happening right now? Then we have acquisition reports. Where did they come from? So again, was it a certain site, a social channel? Was it an email? Engagement. How are they interacting? What are they doing with the content that we have on our site? What pages are they going to? Monetization. So this gets a little bit more advanced, but if you have an e-commerce site, we can see how much money we're grabbing or how much money we're making or generating from a visit or from a user. Retention. How frequently are they engaging with our website, with the content that we're putting out? And then, as we had talked about, demographics. Who are they? What defines them? And how can we get a better idea and really put ourselves in their shoes so that we can create better marketing pieces, better site content, better pages to really drive them to convert? So examples of reports, and again, we're going to jump back to universal analytics because the lion's share of people might still have UA or universal analytics. You've got real-time audience reports. So we're getting a better idea of who our audience is. We talked about acquisition, behavior, and conversion. I'm going to give you an example. So many of you, listen, it's cold down here too. It's not as cold as where you are, but it's cold. But many of you are probably looking outside and seeing snow. Well, I think back to when I started the agency and we had just gotten a big snowstorm. I was working with a client down in Cape Cod, and he was a distributor of Keurig K-Cups, Cape Java. So in this case, we had gone through pretty cold winter, a lot of snow, and he bet the farm and said, hey, Green Mountain's coming out with Island Coconut. It's really good flavor. It's seasonal. It brings spring. Everybody starts thinking about it. Okay, Brian, listen, I got some Island Coconut. I want you to come down. Let's figure out a plan to sell it. Sure, Steve. So I get in the car, drive from the Foxborough area down to just over the Bourne Bridge. I don't see a mountain this big. I don't see a mountain this big. I see a mountain this big of bright lime green boxes of Keurig K-Cups. And Steve says, I just bet the farm. Now it's your job to sell it. So here's what we did. In this case, he had a really good email list. We put it together in email. We sent it out. And you'll notice, again, think about the context. Everybody's looking outside and seeing snow, ice, frost. They're freezing, they're layered. And then they see palm trees, limited edition, now available. The call to action here is shop now. Well, we sent that out. And then we could see real-time reports. A real-time report is when you send out an email or you do a social campaign or post a video or a blog post, and then you can jump to Google Analytics and see the real-time effects of that marketing campaign. Now, in this case, you're seeing the new version on GA4, Google Analytics 4. We're able to see how many people or how many users are coming to the site. We can see what pages they were on, but thinking back, way back when, we sent out that email and then we could see hundreds of people flooding the site, going to the product page, then the shopping cart page, then the order confirmation page. The printer is spitting out orders. The people down in the warehouse are just like dancing around. They're like, wow, I can't believe this. Steve's looking at me like it's Christmas morning, eyes wide, like, how did you do this? Well, if you're using something like this and you jump onto Google Analytics and you're looking at the real-time report, you have an idea of what's driving the business, what's working for you, making better business decisions. Acquisition. So with acquisition, these reports are going to show you how users arrive on the site or on your app. In this case, we can see, basically, we're going to look at where they came from. So was it, again, Google search? Was it through paid ads? Was it through a platform like a Constant Contact or an email marketing? Was it through social media? So we're able to see the acquisition. Where are they coming from? Where were they before they hit our site? And that's going to help us understand, where are our customers congregating? Where do we want to put more of our efforts? Then engagement. So engagement is going to help you measure user interactions. So we can see the number of engaged sessions. Again, we looked at bounce rate and session time. We can see how long they spend on the site, how long they're engaging with the content, really their stickiness, as we call it. We can look at the conversions. And again, conversion doesn't have to be a sale, could be a subscription through your email link. It could be a form that they submit. They could use your calendar tool, your scheduling tool to schedule a new appointment with you. And we can even see the pages and screens that are showing up for those users, basically that user experience. So monetization, again, if you have an e-commerce shopping cart, now you can see basically you can measure the purchases that are coming in through those users. If you're selling subscriptions, you could see subscription revenue. And this is something that you tie into the back end. And again, this is a very basic class, so we don't talk about how to set up your monetization. But if you are selling subscriptions, if you are selling products on your site, definitely something that you want to look into setting up, because it's going to talk about how the users not only interact with your site, but what did they have to do to get to that point where they finally paid, where they finally converted into a paying customer. That's going to help us basically build more of that, really kind of rinse and repeat, following that process, that pattern, so that we get more conversions down the road. Retention, how loyal are our customers? So how frequently and for how long do the users engage? What pages are they engaging on? If you spend, think about this, you're spending an hour and a half today with us, right? Then maybe this is going to inspire you to make a video or write a blog post. That blog post could take you 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours to write. The video could take you the same amount of time. We only have 24 hours in a day. So if you're putting in the time, and or if you're hiring someone or paying someone on your team to do it, and now they're actually creating the content for you, don't we want to know if people actually watch that video or go to that blog post and read the post and actually spend time on that post? Because we don't want to keep doing the same thing expecting different results. We all know that's the definition of insanity. Instead, what we want to do is do more of what works. So knowing what keeps people retained on our site is what we want to do. And demographics, so in this case, we can see users. This is in Africa, but we can see users broken down by city. We can see a general idea of gender. We can see basically their age ranges. So in this case, 25 to 34, 18 to 24, so on and so forth. We can see their language. So that's the language of their web browser. So if their language is set to English, which most of it is, then we see that they're English speakers, but then we might see, hey, there's some Spanish speakers as well. Maybe we need some of our content to be translated into Spanish. So the demographics helps us get a better idea of who's coming to the site. And ultimately, again, the name of the game with marketing is putting yourself in the shoes of your customers so that you can better relate to them, convey your value proposition, which you've probably heard of before, why they should buy your products and services, and ultimately get them to get over that hump and buy. So I gave you the high level view, and then going through those different reports, here's what happened. Eva and Ricky, going back, their gut instincts, they thought their top audience was 35 to 44, primarily female, that their primary driver of traffic was paid ads to their website, and that most purchases were from repeat customers, not first-time visitors. Well, when they started looking at the reports in a little bit more depth, they found that their top audience was actually 25 to 34-year-olds and primarily male. Now, listen, maybe that matters. Maybe gender matters. Maybe it doesn't in your case. In their case, where they're talking about aesthetics, design, things like that, that matters. And also 25 to 34-year-olds, as I established, they're in a different stage of life, different maturity levels. If you know a 25-year-old, some of them might be mature. Some of them still have a lot to learn. Whereas the 35 to 44-year-old, they've been around the block a few times. It's not their first rodeo. They're at a different level of maturity. So we're going to talk to them differently. We're going to create our messaging differently. The primary driver of traffic was actually organic search. So listen, they were buying ads, but maybe now they can divert that budget to creating more content, videos, and maybe blog posts that are driving in more customers. And on that note, more purchases are from first-time visitors rather than repeat. So, okay, maybe people bought 1 or 2 shirts and we assume that they were going to come back by 3, 4, 5. Instead, looking at analytics, even Ricky saw new visitors that are coming because of the content, because of what we're creating, the user experience that we're improving based on insights. Those people are making purchases. Those are the people that we want to incentivize and get them coming back again and again, because now they're seeing Eva and Ricky's store 2.0. And finally, Google Analytics, it's a powerful tool by itself. It can also be used with Google Ads. So in this case, Google Ads reports allow you to get a lot more data. You can learn what happens. So let's say that you've created a Google ad campaign, right? Whether it's a smart campaign, whether you've got your hands dirty and the more power editor, the professional tool that builds your campaigns. Well, either way, here's what I want you to think about. Whenever you buy any kind of ad, Google ad or other, what you're seeing, and you're probably seeing insights on, okay, this ad was shown to this many people clicked, and then radio silence. Well, the reason why you would want to make sure that Google Ads and Google Analytics are linked up, think about it like we've got the Olympics coming. So think about it like a 4x4 relay. First runner goes, great. Second runner goes, great. Third runner goes, holding the baton, sprinting as fast as they can. Well, that third runner is Google Ads. And then if you don't have Google Analytics installed, the baton drops. There's no anchor. Google Analytics is your anchor. Google Analytics now will see, hey, this user came from an ad that this business purchased. The person clicked. Now let's track their user experience on the site. Let's see what pages they went to, if they converted, what they were interested in. Now we're getting a bigger picture, forest for the trees, as you've probably heard before. That's really important. So that's something that is a huge benefit of tying the two together. You can target specific users based on their previous behavior. So if they've interacted with other ads, things like that, now we have a better idea. We can target those users. If they've come to our site before, we can use remarketing or retargeting in order to show an ad to them. They're already familiar with our brand. Now we're showing an ad suggesting a new product maybe they haven't looked at. We can use advanced machine learning. The more that you run ads, and really any kind of marketing platform, the more that you run it, the larger the sample size you give it. So the more times you show an ad or the more times you send out an email or anything else, the more data you have. Well, the more data you have, in this case, Google's machine learning, which is AI, can help you get a better idea of what's working, what's not, and it will give you suggestions on what you should be doing for your ads to drive more qualified buyers. And then you can understand your Google Ads traffic and if keywords that you purchase are working for you or not. So again, Eva and Ricky may have been thinking that they were targeting females, again, age 35 to 44. So they might have been using keywords that would play to that audience. Well, now by tying the two together, now they can see that those keywords weren't working. We don't want to put budget into that. Instead, we want to put budget behind keywords that are playing to our audience of 25 to 34-year-old, mostly male. So again, ads is giving you those insights when you tie it in with analytics so that you know what's working, what's not. And that way you're not just repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So in order to tie in analytics and Google Ads, the first thing you do is you would create, basically you need to have a Google Ads account. So you would go to google.com/ads, use the same account sign in that you have that you use to create your Google Analytics. And then what you're going to do is you're going to be able to set up basically Google Ads linking in analytics. So now you have your Google Ads account, you have your analytics account. You're going to click on this button right here. It's going to join the two. So it's going to marry the two. It's going to give a handshake. Now, any data that you're getting on Google Ads will be shared with analytics. You'll be able to make better business decisions. So recap and resources, and then we will open it up to questions and answers. First, where to go from here. We talked about outlining your goals. SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time sensitive. Now, again, you're going to get the replay. Go back to that section and remember the Mad Libs, the marketing Mad Libs that I had created, that formula. Try using that for yourself. Try again to create at least one goal, if you can more. Maybe one's related to your website, one's related to social, one's related to content, whatever you're going to do. If you have some goals, again, you're giving yourself not only something to hold yourself accountable, but also to measure your progress against so that you know if you're making progress and if you're building your business. 2, you're going to ask questions. So you have your goals. Now you're going to ask those questions. Remember, reach, engage, convert, sustain. What do you need answers to in order to achieve your goals? So start thinking through those questions. Then you're going to choose tools. Today, we talked about Google Analytics. Again, there are other tools you could use, other insight tools and analytics tools, depending, as Deborah had asked before, your web builder might have its own. In this case, I will tell you again, from building websites for over a decade, having Google Analytics installed gives you a wealth of information so that then you can go through the reports, answer the questions, and hopefully achieve your goals. And finally, if you're not measuring, you're not marketing, so you need to set a habit. Easiest way, if you have your phone, use the reminders. If you use your calendar, like for me, I use Google Calendar, and I will set an appointment. I use time blocking. So I'll set an appointment for myself to go check our analytics, to go into certain reports and see what's working, what's not, because I'm in charge of creating content for our business. So make sure that you're measuring your marketing. Otherwise, you're just going to, again, do the same thing, expecting different results, and you might miss an opportunity for amazing growth. There's a great app called Google Primer. You can get it by going to g.co/primer. And so it's basically these quick 3 to 5 minute lessons. You, instead of going through someone's news feed or watching something on TV, you can do this, sharpen your tool set. It's a really good complement to all the resources you have through E4All. And also it's a great way, not only is it related just to marketing, but other aspects of running a business as well, and just really digital skills in general. So you can check it out by going to g.co/primer, or you can go into the Google Play or App Store and just search for Google Primer. And if not for Grow with Google, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't get to do what I love. This was a departure from what I normally do. I usually don't present on Zoom. So again, apologies for that little gaffe at the beginning, but I'm glad you could see my slides through the end. You know, Grow with Google is an initiative. It's there to help job seekers. We're working with local businesses, teachers, students, nonprofit organizations to help bridge the digital divide, and also to really empower you by teaching you these digital skills. So you can learn more by going to google.com/grow. And what I want to do before we open it up to questions and answers, I just want you in chat, just tell me, did you get value out of today? Type the word value, grow. If you had an aha moment, if lightning struck, if you epiphany, tell me in the chat. Let me know what it was that you learned that's going to help you grow your business or help you make better business decisions, because that might be something, we're going to read those. That might be something that someone else that's attending this class didn't think about, and it could help them as well. So I'm seeing some yeses, which is wonderful. You got value, it was worth your time. Awesome. You're okay. Wonderful. Emily, Jonathan, great. You can't break it. That's so true. Yeah. Listen, if you're just clicking around on the reports, or you're using, in this case, that analytics intelligence, you can't break it. Once you start getting into the settings and stuff, yeah, maybe you stay away from that. But when you're just trying to build your competencies, start playing with the different reports, click around, do different things, use the drop downs, see what happens. And if you get stuck, just press back or X out, start over again.
This was great. Brian, while you're still sharing your screen,
Yeah.
Can you start me off with one question? And
Sure.
Allison, you can stop sharing. You can stop recording. We're going to keep sharing. How do I figure out what people are searching for? You